What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Constance Carter, and this is Fly Nubian Money, where we help you to master your mindset and maximize your what, ladies? Your money or your money. Listen, today is Hump Day. Today's Wednesday. What's happening in Nomalanga? All the way. What's today over there in Botswana? What is today? Is today Wednesday or today's Thursday?
It's Wednesday, but it's 8:00 in the evening.
It's 8:00 in the evening. It is 12 Eastern. I know you over there in you're in the Midwest, right, Miss Dominique? You in the Midwest?
I'm in the Chicagoland area.
In the Chi. What time is it in the Chi?
It is 12 o'clock.
Okay, so it's 12 o'clock in the Chi. And then for you, Dr. Felice, I know you over in Charlotte. It's 12 o'clock for you, right? You Eastern?
It's 1.
I mean, it's 1 for you. You Eastern. Okay, so we all on different time zones, but the point is, we are here today. And listen, we're going to talk about something that I think is going to be very interesting today. There's a woman that went viral saying that what many people call depression or anxiety is really financial stress. Bills, debt, unstable income, and constant pressure can take a toll. And sometimes that gets labeled as a mental health issue without addressing the money behind it. So today we're going to talk about the connection between finances and emotional well-being, where the line actually is, and what gets overlooked when money problems are treated as something else. This is Black history, y'all, and we want to make sure that our money's right and our money is tight in Black history. I don't care what they are trying to do in this administration. I don't care how they're trying not to acknowledge who we are. We still going to acknowledge our history. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody. And listen, ladies, happy Black History Month to you all. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History. Yes. So I'm interested in seeing this video because listen, here's what it's about. You think you depressed. You think you stressed. You think you got some anxiety, but really you're just broke. Let's take a look at the video.
Yeah, when them bills paid, that rent paid, let's just be honest. A lot of those mental health issues, they disappear when you got money, don't they? Yeah, when them bills paid, that rent paid, that fridge full, that insurance paid, your car note paid, you be kind of happy, don't you? That kind of make you happy. A lot of that shit disappeared then, right? So before we start going and saying we got mental health disorders, let's try to get some money first. Now, if the money don't fix it, then go see you a doctor. But if you're complaining about certain shit and you're broke, try that first. And I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying, sometimes being broke be the problem. Sometimes you just need some money. You not just depressed because you sad. You sad because you can't do shit. You can't do shit because you ain't got no money. You don't got nowhere to live because you ain't got no money. Now, once you fix those issues and you still having problems, call me and I'm going to connect you to some resources because you probably do need some help for real. If you got money and you sad and you still got mental health issues, call me. I'm going to get you some help.
I ain't even mad at what you're talking about, but I don't know, Nomalanga. I know, you out there rich in Botswana, you got cows and shit. So what does it look like? The difference between you having cows and you not having cows, like, does that make you have depression or not? You muted, babe.
I can neither confirm nor deny those rumors. But I will say I do actually to some degree agree with what she's saying. Sometimes you have one major problem that if it was solved, it seems that all your other problems would be solved. So yeah, I see what she's saying.
Which is money.
It's not always money, but yeah, money's always.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
So is that
it's
true?
Not always money, but yeah, it could be. It could be if your relationship, for example, is in jeopardy, is horrible. Everything feels horrible. If your money's not right, everything feels horrible. If your job, you work with awful people, an awful boss, everything feels horrible. So sometimes it's just one issue, and yes, it could be money, and it just makes everything feel like your life is falling apart.
I'm gonna rephrase that. If your marriage is acting up, money might make it just feel just a little bit better. If your job ain't right, money might make it just feel a little better. Like if life ain't going well, money might make it feel just a little better. I'm just saying, sis. I'm just saying. Like, I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying money makes it feel a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Miss Dominique, what do you say? Do you think that money makes things feel just a little bit better?
Listen, I'm a Capricorn, and y'all know Capricorns are about their money.
Okay, I know. Okay.
I don't think if my money is right, I don't care what else is going on, because money can fix the majority of the things. So if my money is fine, I'm good. Like I'm a Capricorn. So I'm about them coins. So when my money is aligned and is good, then I feel
Life
good.
Is better. Life is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Booker said you got options. It gives you options. And you know, I could agree with that. Money does give you a little bit of options. But the reason why I had, because listen, I heard somebody said the hair was herring, but I wasn't looking at the screen when they said it. But sis, the hair is herring, Dr. Felice. But I wanted to make you last because I really wanted to get, you know, some real, because these heifers ain't shit. I want to get some real therapy about the science behind depression and anxiety. Does money make it a little bit better, Dr. Felice?
You know, I think everybody perceives that, but here I go. I think everything starts with your mental, everything. And I think, you know, we can choose to be happy, sad, depressed in a lot of cases. And then, like that lady said, if, you know, you're still choosing to look at your circumstances and give into it, right, then you need to see somebody, but you have to see a professional, because people are self-diagnosing. You know, they're saying, oh, I got depression, and they haven't had all the criteria. Like, you have to have depression is you have certain criteria and symptoms for at least 2 weeks. Bam, 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 for at least 2 weeks. And sometimes, like she said, it's situational. So, but everything starts with our mental. Everything starts with our mindset. Everything. And so, and what do I mean by that? When I say mental, you don't necessarily have to have a diagnosis, like, or a disorder, but your mental, how you choose to look at something, perceive, and think on it does affect how you feel.
Have you noticed this though? Like, all these new age kids, like my son was like, I remember a couple years ago, my son was like, can I take a mental health day off school? Like, all these kids are now depressed. And back in our days, like, if we talk about depressed, my mama would be like, you better depress your ass in that kitchen and do them goddamn dishes. Like, hey, we didn't get to be depressed. But do you notice, Dr. Felice, that more children are maybe depressed now, or have suffered from anxiety, or has it always been and it just wasn't diagnosed?
So no, that's a great question. And in fact, if somebody wants to pay for me to get my doctorate, y'all out there, if y'all want to pay for me to get my doctorate, I really know I want to study that and make that be my thesis. Because if you think about, like, our ancestors and stuff, they've been through slavery for 400 years.
Yeah.
Some of them had to be
DNA.
Some of them had to have been mentally ill, just from the trauma of what that feels like. But there was no psychiatrist running around for them, no therapist running around for them. Their counselor was, you know, their pastor or their neighbor. And so how did they make it through all those years with real, no, I'm serious. Like, you can't get around slavery. Like, that's trauma on steroids. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that what we're going through is not a lot, but it's nowhere near, in my opinion, what they went through. And we are dealing with mental health on a totally different level. And so, is it because we are talking about it more? Is it because we're like, now look, these are the possibilities for you. So now that it's possible for you to have anxiety and it's okay. Is it possible for you to have depression? It's okay. Do you subscribe to it? And so that's the theory that I really want to work on.
So that's right up your alley.
Absolutely. Great question. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. I think that, in my opinion, you know, money does not, of course, make a person happy. You look at a lot of people who have passed away. You know, Robin Williams killed himself. He had all the money in the world. There are so many people who, you know, money doesn't make you happier. It just magnifies who you are internally. And if you don't get that right, that what you said, Dr. Felice, the mindset, the spirit, you know, all of those things, then the money is not going to do anything. Now, the money definitely makes it easier to have, you know, as you have options and you can seek things. But I do agree, like, in terms of like our ancestors, you know, that's the reason why Black people are so dope. I don't give a damn what nobody says, because in spite of the things that we've gone through traumatically that's embedded in our DNA, yet here we are, the purveyor of art and music and fashion and style and all the things that Black people are, regardless of the trauma that we have been through in these past 450 years inside this country. Look at who we are. So yeah, I agree that money doesn't make it better. However, I do believe that money doesn't make it better. Money does not stop it, but money does, it provides, I think, a softer landing place because it gives you access to more options. But Miss Noma, what you got to say?
I was going to say a different perspective could be sometimes it could just be that we have money or we're more comfortable. Because if you really on a day-to-day basis, you getting up and you have to think about what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? You don't have time to sit around and obsess about your feelings.
Right.
You're too busy trying to survive and not die or not starve or whatever it is. So sometimes when you get to a certain comfort level, that's when we kind of have, enough education to have the language to say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that. You have time on your hands to even think about your feelings and all these other things. Whereas if you're living a life where you're in survival mode, I think you don't have time for that. You're just trying to survive and get through the day or get through the week or whatever it is.
Yeah, scratching and surviving, sis. Don't nobody want to be having them kind of good times, right? Let's take a look at the next video, Miss Dope Ass Producer, and see what the hell we're talking about.
I came to realization that I'm not really depressed, that I'm really just broke. Being broke is my problem. Not having stable income is definitely my issue. Definitely setting me back, and it's putting me in a position that I don't want to be in. Before you ignorant motherfuckers get on here and say, go get a job, bitch, that shit is not motherfucking easy, okay? Especially if you live in the state of Mississippi, if you know, you know. Like on some real shit, I see why people do a lot of illegal shit. I see why they do shit like scamming and robbing and stealing and, being a sex worker. Not saying that I would do any of that, but I can understand it because this economy pushes you to that limit. Then you got all these fake ass, I'm hiring ass signs and ads online. Some people ain't fucking hiring for real. And if they are hiring, they hiring who they want to hire. Meaning it's based on popularity. And if that person don't know you or don't know nothing about you, they not gonna hire you. Simple as that. This shit is for the birds. I'm getting like, if you have a job, do not quit your shit. I don't give a fuck what you going through at your job.
Whew. I mean, losing a job, I think it can be jarring and it could be depressing. And, do you think, Felice, I'm going to ask you this, because you said in order to be depressed, it has to be a week or longer. So are people just kind of self-diagnosing themselves earlier and just labeling whatever they're going through as depression?
Yeah, a lot of people are. And to some degree, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's so much data out there that they probably are right. You still need somebody who's a professional who will validate and acknowledge and be able to say, yes, you really are experiencing real depression, because not all depression is situational. Some of it's clinical, right? And so, but I like what that woman said in the fact that I felt her pain. I felt her stress, like it's real. And you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of times people really can't even do therapy until their needs are met. And so, you got to get your needs met first before somebody can sit down with you and say, okay, let's do this stuff. And so that's real because we were created to survive.
Can you put Maslow's hierarchy of needs back up and kind of go through that?
Right. So physiological safety, love, belonging. So where she's at is in the safety, right? Where she's needing, her bills paid, the threat of eviction, not having food in your house, utilities and lights getting cut off. That is real. And people, and she's telling the truth right now too. It is harder right now for people to obtain work if they're losing their jobs.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a hiring freeze going on right now, and you're competing with people from the Philippines, you're competing with people from India, and you're competing with AI. And so you're competing with all these different things. So for you to just go out and say, I'm gonna get a job, another job, it's not happening. You've got restaurants now that are having robots take your order. So people are getting, so a job where you can just say, okay, I'm going to make some quick money. That's not even really available as readily as it used to be. Like you were saying the other day, where, you know, your child wants to be able to go to a restaurant and get a job. It's not available like that. It's like it used to be. And so her survival techniques, her survival stuff is kicking in. And it will cause depression. It can lead to depression, depending upon how long she stays in it.
And what you said, you know, as I'm listening to what you're saying, Felice, and that when I think about this country, this country is going to be its self-demise, and you can kind of see it happening before our eyes, because when you talk about how, especially when you have these lower paying jobs, how they're being outsourced to either AI, to the Philippines, to India, to robots, to all of those things. And while the billionaires and the owners are getting richer, the poor people are being destroyed. And in any economy, you really need, in order for an effective economy to work, you need people in all those different classes. You need wealthy people, you need middle class people, you need poor people. That's just kind of how that all balances out. But if you decimate the poor and then you drop the middle class, and only thing that these billionaires are thinking about is how much richer can they be? How long will it take you to spend $1 trillion? How can you spend $1 billion? There's no reason in this world why these people should have this much money and there's this amount of poverty, and it's increasing. And as they're outsourcing all of these jobs, you know, you just see the decline of America happening more and more and more. What do they think is going to happen to the people?
Right.
They're going to have to, like, is everybody going to be in the street? Is it going to look like a third world country? Like, what's going to happen? And if they don't put things into place right now to safeguard that, we're in a lot of trouble, because it's going to be a lot more than those people being depressed.
Well, think about it too. How are they going to keep their wealth if there's nobody to contribute back to their wealth? Like,
so
how are you
stupid.
going to keep the wealth?
Yeah.
And that's what greed does. Greed becomes a blinder.
Yeah.
And it literally makes you not think anymore about how to sustain. And that's what more. And so, right, they're not going to be able to sustain their wealth either, if not for them, for their legacy.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Because you think about it, the dollar is getting cheaper. All that money that they're making is not going to be worth nothing. Think about globally, what our dollar means globally. People are not using the dollar currency as they had been in the past. Our relationships with foreign allies have, you know, just all the things that are happening. But I just think about what's happening in America right now and how this is going to play in this probably the next 30, 40 years, maybe sooner, depending on how fast the stuff rolls out. But let me ask you this, Ms. Dominique, when you hear the phrase financial stress, because we talked about that, Dr. Felice mentioned it. What is that personally? I want you to personalize that. What does it mean to you, and how has it shown up in your life? Because I don't know. I didn't come from a place of privilege. I ain't always been around. I haven't always had anything, and I've had some financial stresses in my life, but maybe you haven't. So can you share maybe some time where you've might, because I know Noma, you know, she got all them cows and shit. So I know she ain't never had some financial stress, but maybe for you.
So unfortunately, I wasn't raised privileged. You know, I didn't have a silver spoon. And so a lot of things were struggles. And I think that, you know, like, so taking it back to when I was younger, I'm the oldest, you know, there's 3 biological children plus additional children, you know, added on. And we lived in a small apartment. We didn't have much, you know, we shared clothes, you know, it was that type of situation. And I think that when you come from that perspective, you're always in this survival space, right? So you make decisions based on survival. You're not making decisions that are always rational or that make sense. You're just thinking about how I'm going to survive. So using myself as an example, you know, I went to college. Thank God. You know, I went to college. I decided I was going to be a nurse. That's stability. I knew that I was going to have a job long term. So I didn't have to depend on public aid. I didn't have to, because my parents could not do it for me, period. That was not an option. I was taking care of myself in high school. I supplied we had shelter, we had food, but I took care of my school supplies. I took care of my own clothes. I was working at McDonald's, making $5 something an hour, and so even from that perspective, I'm looking at things differently, right? So I get my check. I'm not thinking about buying the name brand shoes, because it's like, okay, you got $200. What you gonna do with this $200?
What you gonna do with that $200? Yeah.
It wasn't that our parents didn't want to do it. They could not do it. They were barely making it themselves. You got to think about 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. That was my life. And so I went away to school and I became a registered nurse. But now looking back, if you would have asked me if I had it all lined out and I could do things differently, I wouldn't have been a registered nurse. I would have been a counselor, but I didn't have the exposure. I didn't have nobody telling me that I can do anything different. And so that more aligned with who I was, because I was naturally a caregiver. I'm the oldest child. I'm the one that was packing the care packages and I was bringing the chicken noodle soup. That just came natural for me to be a caregiver. So when you are in those situations, you are surviving. So some people are hitting people over the head. It's not a good feeling to not know what's going to happen, or to go into an aid office and somebody treat you like they giving you money out of their pocket. That's not a good feeling at all. And it's like you answer all these questions and you're talking down to me. And so that was my driving force, but it was also survival. You're not thriving. Now I feel like I'm thriving, but I wasn't thriving. I was just trying to
never again. Yeah. So Nomalanga, so I know you probably got like 30, 40, 50 cows, but when you had just one, what'd that feel like to you? You're muted, babe.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute. I think the time where I really started to understand struggle was when I was in graduate school and I was working 3 jobs, because my parents said, we'll cover your tuition, but you're on your own, baby. And then at the time I was an international student, so you're not allowed to work full time. You can only work part-time. So then I had to get like a bunch of part-time jobs. I had 3 part-time jobs, and all I did was I used to get up at 5 a.m. I can't remember the order. I think I had a desk job at the university. Then I'd have to go to another job in the afternoon. I used to be a babysitter. Then at 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock, I'd have classes, because there were night classes. And then on other days where I didn't have classes, I had an evening job at a department store selling jewelry. And that was my life 7 days a week.
For how long?
For 2 whole years, as I was doing my master's degree.
Wow.
And what I remember is when I finished, for about a year or 2 afterwards, I used to have these feelings like, I need to get an assignment. I got to get to work.
Wow.
Because I didn't realize it was traumatic. And that's why I say sometimes when you're in that grind and you're going, you don't have time to think about, oh my God, this is so traumatic or this is so strenuous. Like, you're just trying to get it done. And I had promised my parents that if you will help me with my tuition, I will get this done. I'll get all A's. So I was really doing it. And it may have been even more than 2 years. I used to just get this sudden panic, like, I got to get to class. Did I do my assignment? And it took a while for me to realize that that's over, baby. You just have one job now. You can get up in the morning, go to your job. I think I actually had a second job, but again, it wasn't as strenuous as trying to complete a master's degree. Because if you've ever been to graduate school, by itself, it can be the most traumatic thing, just by itself.
So that trauma sounds like it had a lasting effect.
It did, but eventually it went away. But I'm just trying to stress the fact that, not to be insensitive, but when you're really just trying to survive, I feel like you don't have time to be all up in your feelings. You're just trying to get through the day, get through the week.
I don't know if I agree with that, Noma, because the people who are scratching.
And I was saying only after I stopped did I then start have these feelings like, oh, and even now when I look back, I'm like, what? 3 jobs and trying to get a master's degree, and I think I had like a little dumb relationship. It was just unbelievable. But that was my life. And I think that, again, not to be insensitive, but if you throw yourself into activity, If it's not clinical depression, because I know clinical depression, it really doesn't matter what you do. It's just going to affect you. But if you throw yourself into trying to do something, and I'm going to throw another thing out there, when you're feeling sorry for yourself because nothing is happening or working for you or whatever it is, try serving, try giving back. Giving back and serving doesn't include giving money. Go to a homeless shelter. I used to do that and just serve soup or whatever it is. I have a charity now. Get out of yourself and out of your feelings and out of your problems and solve the problems that you can solve if you're able-bodied. And
Well,
sometimes, and actually, I'm sorry. And another thing, yeah, the last thing I'll add is I'm here today on Fly Nubian Money. My relationship with the owners of this platform started with saying, hey, I'm gonna do it for free. I just want to learn. I love what you're doing and I just want to get in there and do it. And I did it for free. And eventually there were so many money-making opportunities. And I've done that so many times where I threw myself into something just for the pure service of it, or because I just want to do something to give back. And then it turns around and creates opportunities for me.
So there's a couple of things that you said. So I'm so glad that you talked about non-monetary compensation, because that's the thing that I try to teach my children. That is so important. I be giving them opportunities. They like, does it pay? No, but it'll give you access to something that pays in the future. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. There's certain things that you could do for free that'll give you access to people that you would never had access to. So I think that's important. That's really important. But what I do disagree with you on, because I think maybe it's the survival. So there are people who are scratching and surviving, and they are depressed because they don't have nothing. And so all they have time to do is think about their circumstances, situations. When you're talking about when they're struggling, but they're hustling. So you struggle, but you was hustling. So you don't have time to think about it. But so the people who are more or less like just like poor and destitute, they do got time. They're not hustling. You know, a lot of times they're dealing with their depression because I don't know where my next meal is coming from, right?
I think you do agree with me. It's that idle time.
Yeah. I think just that maybe it's the semantics. Because I think there's a distinction between someone who's struggling, because it doesn't necessarily mean they're hustling, right? And then there's the people who are struggling but hustling, and they ain't got time to think about nothing because they hustling to get their shit, right? So anyway, I think this is all very prudent information. You know, I came from struggle too. I definitely didn't come from privilege. I was just talking to my cousin about that this morning. Like we ain't come from, long lines of struggle. And I was sharing, I think on this platform, my friend, he mentors my son. And so he's the blueprint for my son. He's an attorney. He's a finance guy, and he's everything that my son wants to be. So he's mentored my son. Now he took him through this little hazing process, and he's a friend of mine. He should be my business coach, and he's a good friend of mine. And he's like, the only reason why I'm giving your son, a head of the line because of you. But my son kind of effed off the opportunity, and now he just allowed him to come back, and he just took him through this thing. But my son was like, because I be telling my kids, y'all about to pay off this ghetto ass mortgage, because I'm not about to be paying X amount of dollars when I'm 80 years old. So you guys got 5 years to get your shit together, pay off my mortgage, right? So that's in their minds. I've ingrained it in the back of their mind. So my son's like, he telling his mentor, Jason, he's like, the thing I want to do is I want to pay off my mama's mortgage. And Jason was like, don't tell nobody else that, you live in this neighborhood. And I'm like, first of all, he was like, you're not like them. You don't have struggle. I said, you guys came from like privilege, and your people own banks and shit and all that. You came from cotillions and all that, and Jack and Jill. My people came from sharecropping. We are not the same, right? So that was our struggle. Like my parents, my dad didn't start school till he was 8 years old. He didn't, because he was poor. He didn't have no clothes. That was his mentality for us growing up. So the richest person in the neighborhood ate cornflakes, right? So now when I'm growing up, the only thing we could eat is cornflakes, because this was privilege from my father. So the only thing that we had was cornflakes. Like that's the perception that we had. And so my parents, even though they had, pretty decent jobs, they had that scarcity mindset that was put on us. And so we had 13 people living in a house, a 3-bedroom house. I said in my book 19, my mom was like, we didn't have 19. Okay, we did. We had 13. But we had a lot of motherfuckers living in the house. And it was crazy. So I understand where that was. And so for me, it made me never want to put my children through the things that I have been through. And that's the reason why I work so hard today, is because of that history, right? So I think Black people, we just all have this sort of drama in our DNA. And but it's what also has made us so resilient. So we not, I got so much more to say, but I want to go to the next video, because when I listen to the struggle that we have, I just think, wow, we're so resilient. Black people are so brilliant in spite of the things that we've been through. So let's take a look at the next video.
Want to do shit, bro, and like you was like dead ass depressed and want to sit at the crib all day, bro. I know how that shit feel. Speaking from experience, bro, like the worst feeling for a man, bro, is like, nigga, not having no type of money in your pocket, bro. I'm talking about not in your bank, not having no cash, nothing, bro. It's a different type of feeling, bro, for a man to be broke and a woman to be broke. Women can still enjoy themselves by hanging out with their friends and getting drinks here and there and coming together just to make shit good, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, put money together and still have a good time. When a man broke, bro, a man don't want to do shit. That's all he thinking about is how you gonna get bread, how you gonna get this money. Some type of way he gonna get some type of money, bro. That's what he thinking about. That's all on his mind. When a man has money, bro, his ego gets higher. Tell me if I'm fucking lying. Nigga, tell me right now, if you done made $10,000, $20,000 before in your life, bro, you telling me your confidence ain't boosted up. When you don't have shit to your name, bro, what is there to lose, bro? You don't have nothing to fucking lose, bro, when you dead ass broke as a man. Nigga, that shit fucking sucks, bro. It's worse than a damn heartbreak, bro. You don't want to talk to nobody. You don't want to be around nobody.
I was just looking at something, and I want to ask you first, Felice, because I'm sure you talk to people who probably have dealt with this. I did see something on social media that said, and I talked to a guy who said the same thing. He said, because he was wealthy, he was like, I don't give a damn if my woman works at Burger King or McDonald's. Like, what she does doesn't affect me. Some men are like that. But the thing that I heard somebody say is, Beyonce could work for McDonald's and still get Jay-Z, but Jay-Z can't work for McDonald's and still get Beyonce. So is it harder for men to have to worry about money than it is for women, or do you think it's the same?
I think that traditionally it's harder for men to do what. Well, first of all, I mean, money helps people to get better looking and stuff like that. And so, broke men ain't cute. And so, like, it's true. And so we're attracted to attractiveness. So if he's poor and he's not good looking or attracted to the eyes, then it really is harder, because Beyonce is good looking. So even if she was behind McDonald's doing cashiering, she looked good. Somebody's going to pick her up. Somebody's going to want to take her in. And so there is a difference. It is. So
you said if you broke and you ugly, like, you just have no shot. I want you to take that back.
No. Because think about it, y'all. There's some really famous men that back in the day, we did not think that they were attractive. And we know that their money helps them to be more attractive. And that is real. And that is why they got somebody on their elbow. But had they not had that money, they'd be in these streets like everybody else. And so it is true. And I'm not judging, and I'm not trying to be shallow. It's just our reality, especially in this country. And so I think that they are onto something, especially with Black women. Black women have it so hard. It's even harder for them when they have a Black man who is not bringing in money. It's two people who are struggling. And it's a difference. It's just too hard. But I think with Black women, I think it's just as hard for them too. So I can't necessarily agree. I think traditionally it could be that way. But now in this day and age, I think it's hard for the women too. I think it's equal.
So Biggie Small said, black and ugly as ever, however, and he was able to pull Faith Evans, Lil' Kim. Could the rich Biggie versus the poor Biggie, could he pull you, Felice? Not the rich or the poor. I can't hear you.
No, I'd like to hang out with him though, but no, he couldn't catch me.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Dominique, so what do you think for you from your perspective? Because you're a woman of a certain means, you're independent. Do you believe that it's harder for men?
I think it's harder for men because of the mentality of men. Men are said to be providers. That's their value. And so I think that's what makes it harder for them. Because if they can't be what they are said to be created to be, then they don't feel good, and it makes it very difficult for them. I do agree that it's difficult on both sides, but because men are said to be providers, it makes it difficult. Now, in terms of women, like, I can go out and drinks come your way, and you can go out broke. That's the truth, But I will say that I've been out with women that they're buying the drinks, they're interested. And so they're sending drinks over too. And you also have men that don't look that attractive and don't have nothing going on, but they still pull women and they sit on the couch and they
Even if
drive.
they're black and ugly as ever, however.
Yeah. He
Okay.
had a baby mama before he became famous. So that's
His baby mama look like him though.
but he still got somebody, so it didn't matter. The fame and fortune definitely helped tremendously. So he was able to pull Faith and he was able to pull Lil' Kim, right?
And these guys were drug dealers, so they did have money.
That's true.
Just not
He
clean money.
probably had women
They
before.
had money.
Yeah, he had women before.
Yeah, Noma. So I already know what you're gonna say. I already know because you are very traditional and you have this patriarchal perception. But in a time such as this, Noma, where women are equally breadwinners, right? We don't necessarily have the privilege and the luxury to have men who are providing in the capacity that perhaps you do or other traditional women do, where women are really the driving force. Do you still believe that it's harder for men?
Yeah, I think it's harder for men.
Why?
No matter what you say or how we reframe things or we throw in feminism or modern thinking or whatever it is, I give this example almost every week. When you walk into, if there's a man and a woman in a house and you walk into a filthy house, you're going to say, wow, what a filthy woman. If you walk into the house and you see it and it's normal and then they lose the house, everybody's going to be like, man, that Negro effed up. He can't even keep his family, in a house. And they're not going to look at her the same way they look at him about screwing up and losing everything. It's ingrained in us, whether we like it or not. If you're sitting with a bunch of people and a woman bursts into tears and she's having trouble, everybody rushes to her to try and help her, especially the men. If a man bursts into tears and he's in public, people are moving back like, what is that? It's uncomfortable. Like, wait, what? Get it together. Like, what? Oh, you see, we can't escape those things. They're just ingrained in us. And if you want to take it even to archaeologists have actually studied this. This goes back that we are inherently, as women, nurturers. Men inherently are providers. That's what makes us feel good about ourselves. When we're in a position as women, if you're, a normal, healthy woman, you want to nurture and you feel good nurturing. If you're a man, you feel good taking care of people and providing for them and solving problems. Not that the roles can't reverse, but what is inherently natural to us doesn't change. Even if we try and, go into this modern thing of I can be a woman and say I feel like a man and all this other stuff, but it doesn't change.
I 100% agree with you. Even in this society where women are the breadwinners, I think inherently, like in my next chapter, like I'm tired of being a dude.
You don't want to do it, right? You don't enjoy
exhausting.
It. You just do it because you have to.
Because you
don't
have
enjoy
to.
It. Yeah.
I remember when somebody came to my house and they were like, what does your husband do? Is he a doctor? Right. This is when I was married. Right. Is he a doctor? Or if I would come home from, the office and I'm bringing somebody home and my house is a mess, they're not looking at him. He's the one that was taking care of the house. They looking at me if the house was a mess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree. When you said that, it really resonated with me because I'm like, yeah, naturally it's those things. But I do think like in society at the same time, such as this, there is a pressure on women because if we ain't working, we ain't eating. Like we have a certain lifestyle that we have to sustain. And unfortunately, when you have, what is it, 38% of households, Black households, are actually married, or they have two people in the household. Like it's lower, and women are required. So it's really tough, I think, on everybody, because every shit is just out of order, Noma. Shit is just really out of order.
No, and we're out of alignment. We are
Yeah.
totally out of alignment, and it's really scary in the fact that I know my daughter and these younger girls who are dating, like there is this difference in the dating where, they're really confused, and they're like kind of giving up because the men are so out of alignment. Like they're okay with the girl doing all of it. They're okay if the woman is out there working and bringing in like they are truly okay. And I would know Nomalanga, like I know inherently that's not how you were created.
Yeah.
But how are you forcing yourself to be okay with being out of order?
Yeah.
So it's just really, really sad to see how many of this new generation are okay, not being, being out of alignment.
Yeah.
Some of it comes from having like a really strong Black mama, and you watch her and she got it, and you grow up watching that, and you get to be a boy in the home. She buys you everything, does everything for you, spoils you. And then you turn around and look for a woman to do the same thing. And usually if you meet a woman who had a strong Black father and you try to put her in that role, she's like, oh no, no, thank you. But if you meet a woman, unfortunately, who was also raised by a mother that did it all, she's also been trained to believe that she can carry it all. But again, I keep saying, have you seen the diseases affecting Black women? Most of them emanate from stress.
Absolutely.
The obesity, the diabetes, the heart disease, blood pressure, hair falling out,
autoimmune diseases.
Stress, yep. All of those diseases can trace back to just carrying too much and doing too much, or one person trying to do what two people should be doing together and sharing those responsibilities. So I don't care how loud women scream and say, I can do it, I'm Black, I'm proud,
won't you?
Yeah. I don't care. The fact of the matter is, if you look okay on the outside, your insides are not okay. You are dying much quicker and eroding and deteriorating because you're doing more than you really should be doing. It's a fact.
When you said that, huh?
I don't think that women want to do it. I think oftentimes there is no other choice. Even when you think about back in the day, when you think about our mothers and you think about our grandmothers, they did it all. And even if you try to relax and try not to do it all, sometimes the messaging that you get from them is like, you don't have your house clean, you don't have this, but I'm working too. Like you have all these things that you're doing that create you being overwhelmed. And it's not that you necessarily want to do it, but what other options? You have to pay half the bills.
We ain't got no choice. It's the society that we live in. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But then there's also the element where now women don't feel safe actually trusting a man, depending on a man, because they feel like they're going to screw it up, or they've literally never seen a man who got it.
Listen,
so it's like, why am I supposed to do this strange thing that I have never seen? And my cousin, sister, so-and-so, she tried to depend on him and he took all the money and he blah, blah. There's all these horrible stories, right? And there's no real example of good, strong Black men. And that's, for me, I don't think money's the privilege. I think the privilege in my life has been having a strong Black man for a father and having other strong Black men. Even as I've gone into America, I've met great, strong Black men that made me feel like, okay, there's some losers out there, but my goodness, there's some good men. And all you have to do is end up with one of the good ones and it'll be okay.
But that's the key, Nomalanga. We got to get our girls to be around these men.
Where they at?
Exposure is huge. Once you see something, you can't take that back. Once you get exposed to something good, it opens up your world. And so we've got to get our boys too. We got to get our children around the family unit. We got to see healthy, strong families. And not perfect, but committed. Saying I'm here and we're gonna make this work. Like we got
healthy and functional.
Yes.
I think I'm listening to all of you guys, and I'm thinking about just me personally and how to apply all of these things to my life, because you guys made some very poignant points. And I think about, so Nomalanga talked about, you know, if you having a strong father. I have a strong father. I was raised with my mother and father until I was 14. My dad was a provider. You know, my dad made sure that he fixed things and he took care of things. And my mom was very strong in her language, but she was not the breadwinner, right? My mom was, but she was very domineering. And then my ex-husband, his father was, both of his parents were in his life. When his dad died, his mom didn't even know how to pay a bill. I had to take over her finances until the day she died. And we weren't even together. And I was taking over her finances and paying her bills. And so they've seen that. And so with my boys, like I have these conversations because I was outside on the RV one day, right? I'm on top of the RV, y'all. I'm patching shit up on top of the RV. My daughter was like, where was you at? I was like, oh, I was on the roof of the RV. And she looked, because she'd be like, Mama, sit down. Like, you always doing something. You know, I have the electricity turned out because I'm doing the electrical. I'm doing the plumbing and shit. So my daughter be like, Mama, sit down. And so when I came in off the RV, she just looked at me. She said, I hope my brothers don't think that this is normal, that they're going to have women that do this stuff, right? Because when I tell them to help me out, I don't tell her. She's like, I'm going to excuse myself from this conversation because I'm a woman and I'm not doing that. But for my boys, I make sure that I do have the conversations about the expectations of manhood. And I ask them, you know, I've asked them all, you know, so would you be comfortable with a woman taking care of you? And they all unequivocally said, absolutely not. And so because that's what they seen, I was worried that that's what they'll do. And so I've had to have those conversations with my kids and say, you know, this is not, well, they've seen it. They know this is not how things are supposed to go. I want to be the provider, is what they say. And if I get a woman who, if she wants to work, I want her to be able to work. But for me, I'm going to take care of my household. That's how my boys think, which prayerfully, hopefully they follow through. You know, they still young, they still talking that shit. But I just pray that they don't fall into this default of what they've seen their whole life, you know, for them. But I want to look at some stats and just kind of just dig a little bit deeper in what the conversation. So here's a large percentage of Americans report living paycheck to paycheck. Well, at least they got paychecks though. Shit. Financial stress is one of the top causes of anxiety for adults. What's the percentage on that? I'm interested. Financial education improves confidence and decision making. I want to put a pin in that right there, because what do you think about that, Dominique? Because I think it's poignant. Is financial education, does that improve confidence of decision making? What do you think?
Absolutely. If you know how to manage your finances and you make great investments, you know what to do with your money, so you're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you're creating, longevity in terms of your finances. You know what your retirement looks like. Absolutely, it creates confidence. Yes.
Any other stats before we go to the next video? Or was that the last one? Okay, if that was the last one. Income instability increases emotional strain, but does it increase depression? Emotional strain, Dr. Felice, is different from depression, right? You're muted.
Yeah, depression is a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So you don't have to have emotional strain for over 2 weeks to determine that it's emotional strain. Because we know if finances ain't financing, it's some emotional strain up in this mug, right? Okay.
But the thing is, emotional strain is part of life.
Yeah.
And actually the people who struggle much later in life is people who are meeting emotional strain for the first time as adults.
Yeah.
If they can learn to self-regulate through emotional strain, I mean, I don't think children should just self-regulate. They should have the guidance and the support and the love and what have you from their parents, and actually the modeling of this is how. I'll give you a quick example. The other day, I was really having a bad day. I generally don't yell at anybody, but I raised my voice at our 10-year-old, almost 10-year-old. Now, he kind of deserved it, okay? But still, later on, I called him back and I told him, like, look, buddy, you know, the rules is this and this and that, but the other rule is we don't yell at each other and we don't verbally abuse each other. And I'm so sorry that I raised my voice at you. And he's like, it's okay, Mom, I know what I did. I was like, yes, but I want you to understand that being yelled at, especially by a woman, is not okay. and you shouldn't accept it. And I apologize for doing it. And he was like, yeah, okay. He gave me a kiss. He was just like, I don't know what she's talking about. But I really try to emphasize that, because I've met people who being yelled at and insulted and all that is just normal to them. And I find it horrifying.
First of all, I want to know what's the difference between him being yelled at by a man versus being yelled at by a woman. Why is it not acceptable?
It's emasculating when it's a woman.
Got it. Okay.
Can I bring up something too? She brought up a good point too. One of the reasons why our young people are so anxious and depressed as well is that we robbed them of the ability to figure out things for themselves. Like, we didn't allow them to feel struggle. And so when they get out there for the first time, we've taken care of everything. We've been helicopter parents, right? Swooping in and saving them from their butts hitting any concrete. And when they get out in the real world and the first signs of struggle or things not going the way that they needed to go, they immediately go and have their mindsets go to stress. They start feeling stress. They don't know how to cope with it because we robbed them of the ability to kind of sit and struggle. Struggle is not inherently wrong or traumatic. It's about how you manage that. How do you cope through life? Life is going to happen, and it is the most just thing on this planet, because life doesn't care about your ethnicity. It doesn't care about your socioeconomic status. Life's everybody. And so we got to be able to teach and model for our children how we cope with life.
Yeah. Man, that is the truth. And so I want to know what the solution is. And we'll talk about that when we do our final thoughts, because, if it's a real thing, if it's a thing that's causing emotional stress rather than depression, what is the solution? But before we talk about that, I do want to take a look at our last video.
Here's the dark truth about being poor. Poverty charges interest. Can't afford to get that cavity looked at? Next day you're paying for a root canal. Can't afford a good lawyer? You may end up in prison, trapped in a system you can't fight. Can't afford to get that lung checked out? Next day you're paying for stage 3 cancer. Can't afford to pay your bills on time? You end up with bad credit, paying triple the interest every time you borrow. You see, growing up in ends, the hood, the ghetto, or whatever you want to call it, you see this commonly where less fortunate people pay more for things because they are less fortunate. And even if they somehow manage to make it out, make a bit of money, they hold on to those traumas and pass it along generations. The truth is, wealth buys you time, options, and safety. And then poverty steals all three, and then charges you interest for the rest of your life.
Wow. You know what? There is definitely truth to that, because you think about all the people who've been railroaded by the criminal justice system because they simply don't have enough money. Poverty does charge interest. I could think about, I have a cousin who ended up getting executed back in 2013. He was 18 when he committed a crime. He committed the crime with 2 other people. A white guy was the mastermind. And he would not allow his parents to put up their house to get a lawyer. And, and I was the only one that he was talking to, like right before he got executed. I was the only one that came out when he got executed. But I remember him saying, had I let my parents put up their house, which I didn't want them to do, had I let them pay for a higher priced lawyer, I wouldn't be on death row. And it is true. If he had better representation, he would still be alive today. He might be doing life in prison, but he'd still be alive today. So, Noma, what about you? Do you think poverty charges interest? Do you think it puts you in a worse situation? You're muted.
Sorry. Absolutely. As he was talking, I know a real life example of somebody who had a cavity and didn't get it taken care of for years. And somehow, whatever the infection was that was in his tooth traveled through his bloodstream, and he ended up having a stroke.
It's an
just from a cavity.
Yep.
That he could have just gone to the dentist, clean your teeth out, fill the cavity, and be done with it. But he didn't have health insurance, and he didn't have the money to do it out of pocket. And he just went years and years. And that was his story. Like, look, being poor is no joke, or being broke is no joke. I ended up with a stroke. So it definitely does. What I can say about financial freedom is that it definitely does give you options. My goodness, it gives you options. Even the Bible says money is the answer to all things, meaning material things. If you need things, money will answer it. And if you don't have money, you don't have the answer to a lot of things.
Dominique, Samaj says American capitalism is evil. What say you?
I agree. I think this world is evil. Like, I think that all the things that are happening, like you guys were talking earlier about billionaires and, you know, people that have money, the greed is going to be the demise of our country. People focusing on themselves and not thinking about other people will be the demise of this country. There's no way that the stuff that is happening, the rise in food, the rise in gas, the levels of poverty that we have is just unacceptable. But if it's okay for the powers that be to be in the spaces that they're in and they're okay, you know, everybody's okay with it and nobody does anything about it, things won't change. But I do think that in order for us to change, we have to come together as one. We really have to be united. We have to get back to the places where we're building our own villages and our own communities and have our own farm, like all these things that can really propel us to the next level. We can't rely on anybody else to save us. We have to save ourselves. And instead of us, you know, trying to operate as individuals, we have to come together as a team in order to overcome this, because it's just overwhelming and it's just pure evil.
Felice, I know you got to get out of here. If capitalism is evil, what's the alternative? Is it socialism? Is it communism? What is it?
So I have a different mindset. I don't think it's capitalism that's evil. I think it's the greed of people who abuse capitalism. So I happen to need capitalism because I plan on making a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? And I don't want nobody dictating to me how much I can make and how much I can give. And so, no, like, it's the people who abuse it and then they don't use it right and they don't give back. I don't think capitalism is evil. I think it's people's greed. And so, no, but because I plan on benefiting from capitalism.
Where can we find you, Dr. Felice? You got to get out of here.
I'm the b.big.coach, b.big.coach on Instagram. Y'all, and let me just share this real quick because y'all brought it up. And thank you, Nomalanga, Dominique, and Constance, for the month, for Black History Month. I am giving free consultations for anybody under the sound of my voice on this platform for the month of February. So if you with me, I'm going to bless you and have a meeting, at least start the conversation, start the healing, and see.
Okay.
That's amazing.
How do we sign up?
So if you go to, so let me give you my email address. It's felicebrit28@gmail.com. That's the quickest way to get to me.
BRITT?
BRITT28@gmail.com.
All right. Y'all write that down. Y'all better get your free session in.
Okay. Oh, Fly Nubian people. Y'all gotta say Fly Nubian Money.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Let's go therapy. Come on. All right. So ladies, that was your final thought. I want to know, where can we find you? And did you have anything to add? Because we got to get up out of here, but where can we find you? We'll start with you, Dominique.
So you can find me on all social media platforms at The Whitmore Group. And then you can go to our website at thewhitmoregroup.com.
Okay. All right, Noma. So how do you want to wrap this up?
Actually, it's really quick. Two things that we should always be putting at the front of our mind: multi-generational living and group economics.
Multi-generational living. Do you practice that?
I do not right now, but I am not against it.
Tell the people, for the people who don't know, what multi-generational living is. I know it sounds self-explanatory.
Stay home as long as you can. Do not leave home to go and be unstable. Or you can even all buy a house together and grandma and grandpa stay there, mom and dad stay there, and the grandkids stay there. Don't leave home to just go be unstable and poor. If you have a family home, stay with family. Now, I think I said this during the convention also. It does also require us managing our relationships, because there's no point in being in a house and everybody's fighting and there's
I know
dysfunction
that's
and all
right.
of this. So that's one of the major things is, get therapy if you need it, get intervention if you need it, build your relationships so they're healthy, stay together so that you're pooling your resources together and not everybody paying rent over there and buying food over there. Pull it all together, and you can survive hardships.
I love that, Noma, because I mentioned the other day, I think about, I was born and raised in San Jose, right? And so in San Jose, we used to laugh at the Vietnamese people and the Mexican people because it was 20 deep in a house. Now they own all of San Jose and the
same thing with Indians. I've seen it with Indians.
Yes, they know how to do it. We was arguing over toilet paper. We arguing over, you took my last bottle of water. I need my own space. I mean,
don't touch my stuff. Yeah.
Don't touch my stuff.
So that's why I say it's very important to manage the relationships and reframe how we think about it, and understand that having peace in the home is very important for stability. And it's also important for multi-generational wealth.
I think that should be a topic, Tiara. Does multi-generational living for Black families, and how do we accomplish it? Because I think it's important. It's an important topic that we need to talk about. I think about my situation. I got my daughter. She owns property. She could easily live there, but I got freaking house in the basement, and I don't see her I don't go down there for weeks. Like, she has her own space. And I'm like, girl, if you don't come over here and live with us and, quit tripping. And she's like, but I want my own. Silence, But I do think that that's important. I think that's great in collective economics. That right there, I'm going to put multi-generational, even though I don't practice it. I think that is a very, very
You are practicing it if you live with your daughter.
Well, my daughter, but I'm like my mama. I told my sister, because my sister and my mom live together. I said, I will shovel shit in a sewage waste factory before I live with my mama. But living with my daughter is something totally different. My mom is a piece of work. I couldn't live.
So you're practicing it. You're practicing it on some level. If she has enough money or whatever to be on her own, but you choose to stay with each other, that's multi-generational.
I received that. But when I get a dude, they all got to get up out of here. So, can't all be up in here. My son's coming back after
get her own husband.
I was like, listen, it's time for the youngest getting ready to go to school. It's time for me to start dating. What's going on? So anyway, Noma, how can we find you? Where can we find you?
You can find me. I always say I'm a Facebooker. I'm always on Facebook. Nomalanga Habaroni. Most of the time, if you are in one of my courses at the Black Business School, you can ask me any number of questions and I'll just keep answering them if you send me a message. Also, if you say Fly Nubian Queen, I'm sure I'll respond. You can also find me on Instagram as Ms. Nomalanga. And I also have my own YouTube channel under Nomalanga Mhlali Moses. Then the last one is, please support our charity, Pads for Our Girls. We support young girls who are in school, who sometimes miss school because they're so poor, they cannot afford sanitary products. So we supply them with sanitary products. You can donate sanitary products if you're local. International donors usually give money, we buy the products, and we deliver them to them. So thank you.
I love that. I was going to ask you about them pads for girls because we definitely need it. I wanted, before we get out of here, so thank you, Noma. Thank you, Dominique. I wanted to talk about Frederick Douglass because this is Black History Month. Now, back in 2017, that orange man in charge tried to act like Frederick Douglass was somebody new. He's somebody that he bullshits everything. He could not pass a civics class. He would not know what the branches of government was if you put it in his face. He has no clue. But this man said, yeah, Frederick Douglass is, he's really becoming more and more popular, and, he's done a lot of great things. That's what he says. That's his default go-to because he don't know shit about him. He don't know nothing about history. He knows nothing about American history. But Frederick Douglass was a great American hero. He was a former slave. And one of the things, his first wife, she was a free woman of color, and she sold her things to get him free. Frederick Douglass, he disguised himself as a sailor and got on a ship and sailed from Maryland to New York. And then he started his abolition movement. He was married to his first wife for 40 years. But let me tell you 5 powerful, lesser known facts about Frederick Douglass. He taught himself advanced writing by studying law books and newspapers. Okay. He was the first Black person nominated for Vice President of the United States. I didn't know that. They nominated Frederick Douglass for the Vice President of the United States. He advised 5 U.S. presidents. I did know that. He owned and edited multiple newspapers to control the narrative. And he married a white woman. I don't know if y'all know. He married a white woman later on in life and lost major support because of it. Now, if Dr. Umar always talk about he's a descendant of Frederick Douglass, he don't really talk about that Snow Bunny never, Black woman forever. He don't talk about the Snow Bunny, but he was married to this white woman later on in life, and a lot of people don't know, and or they discredit the things that he did because of that. But Frederick Douglass is a great Black American hero. Oh, somebody said today is Rosa Parks' birthday. Oh, also another known fact about Frederick Douglass is he doesn't know when he was born, because slaves really didn't know, enslaved people didn't know when they were born. And his mom used to call him her little Valentine. So he picked February 14th to be his date. And 1861, I believe, he picked it to be the year he was born, just kind of guessed it. So Frederick Douglass, yeah, y'all drop a Black fist in the comments and let everybody know that you love and support Frederick Douglass, and you love and support the Fly Nubian Money. Guess what? Oh, let me tell you my outro. Let me tell you what I'm supposed to say in the outro. So today's conversation, money pressure affects how people think, feel, and function. Understanding when stress is financial and when something deeper matters. This conversation is about recognizing the role money plays in emotional health and being honest about what needs to change in order to feel better long term. See you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. We love y'all. Peace.